Okay, so just quick video response, nothing fancy, while the ideas are fresh. Um, so yeah, so what you're talking about there is this is a response to TJ, by the way. TJdoeslife is, I guess, something that you're immediately going to find in fantasy, uh, as in, things that are specifically identified as escapism. So just indulging in an art form, or if you don't think video games are art, and also indulging in things that put you in a foreign state of mind. So anything with a narrative. Um, because abstract art doesn't do that. Um, it's the quite the opposite of that. It's more about presenting you with, um, I guess, or maybe if abstract art does it, it's like the most basic form. It's not really trying to submerge you in something that replaces your your present state of mind. It's more of just trying to make like a dent on it, like presenting, a color that's going to make you feel this way, or a shape that's going to make you feel a certain way. But that's like the most it can probably do. Um, but when we're thinking about fantasy, we're more thinking about things that are presenting a substitute for our current reality. But what I liked about what you said was that was first, starting out the video with something that isn't really seen as a kind of like fiction, a, a readily identified fiction like a movie or something. You started out with the actual action of someone indulging in his masochism by substituting it with an act that approaches, the superficial action that he would be doing if he were really assaulting someone. And doing that with someone else who actually isn't really engaging in fantasy. That person is enjoying in and of itself the beating that they're getting in this exchange that they're doing. So there's one person that's kind of thinking of something else while he's having this encounter with this other person, while the other person is engaged with it. So maybe you can make a game with that in your head, a sexual parallel, uh, where one guy is you know on the surface you only see two people engaging with one another sexually, but one of their minds is not in the same place that the other person is. So what I liked about that is that you can actually bring it somewhere else, where you even further from the whole fantasy thing, because I think this might have a connection with how I'm starting to see everything that I engage in life as being entertainment to me, um, because one way to one way that I look at things sometimes is that the only I guess motivation that I have, uh, the only fulfillment that I get out of anything that I do or I think or I feel is that I'm entertained by it. Because entertainment, further than like we were talking about before, like fantasy, further than simply being connected to works of fiction that are being indulged in. Entertainment is also the kind of the act of keeping your mind connected to. Like I am entertaining a thought. This isn't like that's not really. I'm not really making a metaphor about how like the thought is like putting on something that's comedic or something that's entertaining in the sense of like a cultural art form or whatever, or watching a TV show. It's more that I'm entertaining the guests by just being in the room and serving them drinks or having a conversation with them. Um, so entertainment, it's more just me, my mind being actively present and engaged. So I guess yeah. So that's another word that sounds more appropriate, but has that same role. Is that I'm engaging myself in something. It is entertaining me. The reason I read books on philosophy, um, aren't from some innate, like, you know, it would be great if that were the case. There's some like, oh, I am obliged a priori as a thinking individual to seek the highest and most exact truth. Um, no, like, you know, this is all stuff that entertains me. Maybe the idea that I am seeking some kind of truth that's going to allow me, that's going to have to practically have some practical use in, you know, facilitating the way I understand myself and the world. That entertains me. But the 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 action of setting out to understand the universe in and of itself isn't something that comes for its own reasons. You know, uh, the reason I eat to continue to live. I mean, of course, you know, there's the genetic thing. We have impulses, um, but you know, even then, when you're talking about things that we're pre-programmed to do, there's always the element of that the genes fit in to motivate the you know, because like the mechanical actions, the muscle, I mean, it can have its own memory, but because we have brains that, you know, continually monitor and gauge the I guess the worth of our impulses, that's moderating the impulses. You know, the body has to entertain the brain in order to convince it to be going along with the rest of these processes. I guess maybe that's one way of seeing, you know, the value behind getting, you know, satisfaction out of eating food, you know, eating things that taste good. Of course, you know, we could have had a fully automated system where like we're not thinking about eating, and that just like we have we're only going to um, have an impulse to eat apples, such and such amount of fruit, and such amount of grains. Except I guess perhaps fortunately we have a more creative brain that wanders and that abstracts things, and that necessarily can't be thinking so rigidly if it wants to adapt more easier to changing circumstances. And so I guess entertainment, pleasure, becomes a kind of currency then, because instead of the body asking for very specific things, everything that it needs, like, okay, like you're only going to eat this much of this specific kind of food. The thing is that we're not always going to come across the same types of grains and the same types of things. Sometimes we're going to have to scavenge different things. Sometimes we're going to have to substitute different things depending on our circumstances. So we have this kind of common currency, which is pleasure. Which is entertainment, I guess the enjoyment of being distracted by something or being mentally engaged by something. And that's kind of the common currency that our brain understands, that will say, okay, no, I understand nice flavors, you know, I understand good flavor. I understand, you know, the basic action of, I guess, being alive. I enjoy being alive. There are different things in life that I guess keep me engaged. Obviously, you can't be engaged if you're dead, of course. Um, so that becomes a kind of basic currency um, that motivates you to do very different things that almost have nothing to do with each other, like having a conversation with a friend versus eating chocolate or watching a video about philosophy. I mean, you know, some people have different tastes. Some people don't consider that as entertainment, but I do. So, gone on a tangent. Fortunately, I find that when I'm making YouTube videos, most of my tangents are, you know, something fruitful that, you know, that encourage me to go on them, you know, because I'm actually making some kind of point. But I guess to try to get back to the original point that that I was making, that you were making, TJ, is the is fantasy. Yeah, so fantasy. So people are. I think fantasy is something that we engage in just in everyday conversation. I mean, an example that I was using before is I guess two-facedness, or perhaps what's the word? Uh, passive aggressiveness. Um, Both of these things are, you know, when people are mentally engaging themselves, imagining themselves going all out on a person that they dislike, or against a person that has slighted them, but they don't actually do it in action. They do it in their head, and in order to substitute for that, I guess, feeling of that longing to get back at that person, they do something. The passive aggressive person does something to substitute it, something that's not as grave, that if seen in its proper light, you can interpret someone's actual intent behind a very subdued action. Like someone's face twitches when they see something that bothers them. I guess people have different face twitches for different reasons, but if someone wants to read into that specifically to what caused them to do that, someone can imagine in their mind that really that person in their mind is hollering out in disgust or something like that. So I think in day-to-day life, we have these things that we really want to do, but for some reason, maybe it's inconvenient, maybe it's something that we can't attain, we substitute them with things that either approach that in reality, that are almost as good, or that that can function as substitutes, like pretend. So just like someone who, I guess, reads a lot of romantic literature because they just can't seem to find an actual person to have a relationship with in real life. It can also be, like I said before, taking out your anger on a punching bag instead of beating the crap out of a person that you dislike. I'm sure there's more examples I can find that in everyday life, but for the sake of not making very long, awkward pauses in this unedited video, I will have to not try to think about them too long. So I think I'll leave it there. Just a quick response, not an essay that has been thought out at all, but just some fresh ideas off the bat right after having seen your video. I did this some time ago with something that I actually never really continued, because if I wanted to continue it, I would have had to actually sit down and think about this and organize my thoughts in a very good way, which I would really like to do sometime, but I did not find the opportunity to do that back then. But anyway, we'll see how things go now, so I'm putting those ideas forward, and I'm going to be uploading another video that I just recorded on my way home as a walk and talk. About the self. So that's it. Talk to you later.